afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues. Thank you very much for your attendance this afternoon. It is 2 o'clock, so if we can make a start, that would be helpful. Item 1 is apologies. Dawn?
I've received apologies for absence from Councillors Maguire and Schumann. Can I also give apologies to James Smith, who had hoped to be here because of the
Thank you. Item 2 is the minutes of the meeting on the 8th of December. That is the one that we held, I think, at Shire Hall. Can I just go through the minutes page by page, first of all, in terms of accuracy, and then ask for permission afterwards to sign them. So, page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, 5, and 6. And then the appendix, page 7 and 8. Are you all happy that I signed those as a correct record?
Very good.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Item 3, Chairman's announcements. You'll see Chief Officers wearing some very colourful ties today, and that is to celebrate the anniversary that we always do every year for LGBT History Group. It's something that the Fire Authority has supported over the years, and I think it's good, and we do have a very good record on taking all these sort of issues into account. So thank you, as we do, and yes, thank you. Okay. So just a few other items. I don't know whether you want to go or line yourselves up for the LGA Fire Conference, which is I think from the 6th to the 9th of March in Gateshead. I'm going. I think John's going, aren't you, John? And the Chief Fire team are going. Does anybody else want to go? It is a very interesting conference, and there's always a lot coming out of it. So, as members, if you do want to go, could you contact Debbie, who's sitting in the body of the hall there? The awards night held a couple of weeks ago in the Marriott Hotel was a great success, and thank you for members who turned up. I was privileged to present the Chairman's Awards. There were many others there, and it was really a good reflection on the work that is done within the fire service locally. I really do pay tribute to everybody who had an award, and exceptionally high standards of awards and work done. So thank you to everybody who was there, and thank you to JJ for the organisation. I think the comms team did a really good job. Perhaps you'll pass my thanks back to them. Yeah. And then just a quick word on the PCC legislation following the last meeting which we had. It's now been enacted. It's now in law, and since then we've moved slightly forward in the fact that we are proceeding now to get the business case ready. And a few of us have met with the PCC, and last week we interviewed 3 companies who will come with the job of getting the case ready. And I'm pleased to say PA have been appointed. All 3 companies were very professional in what they produced, but we felt PA matched our needs as best as they could do. So we're now moving forward. I'm expecting no more than 3 weeks before we get a draft case to look at, and we'll feed information back to you as we get it. But what was interesting is that all 3 companies said that the time scale that they've been given was very tight, So I don't think we're going to get the case finished by April, May. It may go longer than that, but that's no bad thing. Okay, so that's my announcements.
Sorry, Chairman, what it does do is create the possibility that it will be a new board that will have to make a decision
Of course,
with
because
significant elements of
Yes,
relatively
yeah.
back experience.
that's right. Depending on how the elections go in May, some of us may be here, may not be here, and there'll be spaces for others to take over, no doubt. So we'll watch with interest. Item 4, declarations of interest. Any declarations, please? No. In which case we will move on then to item 5, which is the Fire Authority budget. Matthew.
Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon, members. Couple of points I want to raise. I'll take you through the consultation feedback that we had. We ran an online survey, which we asked a number of questions. We had 154 responses. Those in the context of the population of Cambridgeshire and Peterborough perhaps isn't particularly high, but actually it's higher than we've certainly had in recent times. So, and of those 154 responses, 73% were supportive, with 27% saying they did not support an increase. It's probably worth putting some context around that though, because actually what we have seen is that we seem to have been sort of wrapped up with the wider council tax debate, and a lot of the feedback actually brings into account elements of provisions that are provided by district and county council and not the fire service, so they haven't treated us as a separate entity. So they talk about things like green bins, obviously the wider rubbish collection, social care, amongst other things. So whilst we obviously consulted as an independent organisation, it's been wrapped up in the wider debate. But on the whole, positive and actually generally supportive of an increase, which will obviously equate to £1.26 per year. So if I move on to the main report now, many members have seen the bulk of the report. There has been a change. A couple of points. We got the final business rate figures from district councils last week, and they have meant a change to the budget. Doesn't impact on council tax figures. We freeze that as we concluded last month. But what it does mean is that the way we finance our capital programme will need to be amended slightly, in that not so much revenue budget will be used going forward. We will have to use reserves. Now that was always an option for us anyway, but actually we had to bring it slightly ahead, because in effect the business rates figure has gone down, so that income has gone down by £200,000 per annum. They are still estimates, so it could change as we go through next year, and that's why. So in some respects, actually, I'm quite comfortable with using reserve, because it may be that I come back halfway through next year and say, actually, the estimate is not proven accurate, and they're over collecting, like all these things. So I'm relatively comfortable in the approach we are taking. Just another aspect, the revenue support grant, on the front page it says that we're assuming there'll be no change. We are still assuming that, but we're not expecting the finalised grant until the end of February now, which will not only impact on us but all other local bodies in the area, which is a little disappointing, but nevertheless we're not anticipating any changes. So I think that's the key. So I'm quite happy to go through the detail. Obviously we've been through it previously, but in a sense I'd like to take you really to the recommendations. And just on page 17 of the report, or 31 of the pack, there is an amendment to the actual, and I've put the amendment, you've got separate sheets. So on the back sheet, it says 17 on it, says draft. You'll see the budget requirement figure has now gone down from 28,191,000 to 27,987,000, and that's the reduction of that funding, which will be picked up from the capital reserve. Other than that, everything else on that page will remains the same. So you see the Band D figures, or all council tax figures, remain exactly the same. So that's, I just want to point that out, and I'm happy to take any questions that members may have.
Thank you, Matthew. Questions? Councillor Shevins.
Thank you, Chairman. It is quite possible to have more than one view as to the future of interest rates. And what I would be interested in is, and I don't know if you can give me this off the top of your head, is what the cost per annum would be of an increase of 0.5% next year, bearing in mind that the forecast in these papers is nothing until 19.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the predominant factor for us is pay inflation.
Yeah.
So, the government have installed out that until the end of this comprehensive spending review period, 1% is seen as the likely figure. So then we're really taking into account a much smaller £5 million effectively, and any variation on that over up to 0.5%. So the actual material impact is quite small. The issue I have is keep looking at pay inflation. That's the thing we collectively need to keep an eye on, because actually if there's pressure on that, then absolutely 1% starts to cause us some concern. Certainly a couple of £100,000 per annum at that point if we get to that stage. So that's where I'll be focusing the effort in terms of the short term, if inflation does start to gallop ahead.
You anticipated my follow-up question.
Councillor Jamil.
Just on that, if we needed to, on it, just to start, are our reserves adequate now to cover rainy day life?
Yes, we've got, in the general reserve, we've got just over £2.6 million, and I've said this to you many times. I've asked audit for an opinion, and they don't really give an opinion other than they appear to be adequate. They're sitting around about, and I think actually on page 16, you can see they're sitting at 8.4% of general reserve, 8.4% of revenue budget. Well, that appears to be a healthy margin. It's not a bad position to be in at this stage. And again, those will get under constant review as we go through this period. But at the moment, if you set aside also the property development reserve, which effectively is to fund our buildings and our capital, then we're in a strong position of strength right now.
Thank you. Councillor Henderson.
Yeah, a couple of comments, that's all. You don't shoot me down, I'm only a messenger. Yeah, last month, a month before, you suggested you'd had a lot less call-outs through modern homes and fire alarms. So therefore, I know you've got the labour cost, but we're not putting the rundown on the machines and vehicles. So I think they should be made to last another year or 2 years, rather than buy new vehicles. In fact, we're still in austerity, and I think we could contain a lot of this 1.9%, if we try very hard, owing to the fact that we've got all these new houses. In actual fact, nobody can afford to live in them when it comes to it, because the outgoings are more than what they've got coming in. So I think we've got to really, we're not knocking what you're doing.
No.
So you've got to look at it in reality. We can't have all these people out on the street, and no houses and no poll tax being paid, because of the rate going up. What's been happening in 4 years?
If we can, Councillor. Yeah, I think in terms of the vehicle and the fleet, absolutely, we do review the lifing of our vehicles. At the moment, that sits about 12 years for a fire appliance. Clearly, as perhaps if we don't have the burden on those vehicles, we can review the life of them. Some of the lifing is obviously associated with whether we can get parts for those vehicles. But at the moment, we employ a Scania fleet throughout all of our red trucks. So parts is not the issue. So again, yes, we can review those. In terms of the cost savings, it's pretty small, because actually the cost is spread over the whole life of the vehicle. So a vehicle of £200,000 over 12 years costing us about between 15 and 18,000 pounds a year. So those are the sort of costs we're talking about. But nevertheless, yeah, absolutely, we should be reviewing everything, and we do.
When you see, I have a lot of commercial boxes, and you see the prices that second-hand fire appliances and snorkels are being sold at, and the new price that they are when you buy one in.
Yeah, yeah,
There's a
absolutely.
big loss to the
Huge.
taxpayer.
Yeah,
And that's why
over the
I
life.
suggested
Yeah,
making it last that little bit longer.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
There's a book called Truck World,
Mm.
Plant World, if you look in there, there's fire engines in there. What you're selling them for, I know they go through the auction and done properly, but it makes you think how much we're losing year on year for £500,000 snorkel.
Yeah.
So, just a
No, that's
comment,
okay,
that's
that's
all.
fine.
No, not to what you're
No, that's
doing.
fine, thank you.
I might not be in next month, so you're all right.
Thank you.
Councillor Ashwood.
Thank you, Chairman. Matthew, one query on something on the capital programme. Page 18 of your report, 32, very substantive. Vehicle replacement programme, second line down, service vehicles, cars,
Yes.
37.
Yep.
But we've only got 14 down to next year. Is there no way we could balance that out a bit more? Because that is one heck of a hit.
Yeah, unfortunately, when this is it's almost a legacy replacement program, because what happened was when we introduced the provided car solution, so we moved away from lease cars, moved to a provided system, which actually saved the authority quite significant sums of money, continues to. We had a phasing of those lease cars that expired, so we had to buy cars at a certain period of time, and they're on a 3-year replacement. So it's the legacy of those. Where we can, yes, we will extend and try and smooth it out. But unfortunately for this, it's almost it is that legacy of when we introduced the scheme. So every 3 years we do have a slight spike. But overall, over the life of it, we are saving. We continue to save money.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else? No? Matthew, is there anything else you want to say?
No. I mean, I don't want to sound like a broken record. We're in a pretty strong financial position as it stands at the moment, particularly with if you agree, a council tax increase this afternoon. This year is the last big year, and then we can start to focus our efforts on refining and just really just shaving as much as we can without the pressure of millions of pounds being taken out each year from the grant.
Thank you. Well, I think on your behalf, I'd like to thank Matthew for all the work that he's done this year to balance the books and to give us an excellent view as to where we are in the future. So can we take items from the recommendation? We're asked to review the budget report attached at Appendix 1 and approve the recommendations on page 17, subject to the alteration that Matthew has made. Everybody agreed? Agreed. Anybody against? Are you against? Both of you? Right, okay. So it's all in favour bar 2. Thank you very much. We'll now move down to item 6, which is the draft pay policy statement for next year. Again, I'm going to ask Matthew to introduce it.
Thank you, Chairman. With your other hats on, I'm sure you see these draft pay policy statements in many other organisations, but the Localism Act in 2011 brought in a requirement for us to agree a pay policy statement on an annual basis. Attached to Appendix 1 is a revised one for this year. There are a few minor changes that I'll take you through as we go through it. Just worth probably adding some background. Councillor Bywater particularly was heavily involved in a review of this pay policy, not this one, our pay policy, some years back. This is the new, I would say, more robust and more detailed pay policy, and we continue to refine it. So on page 2 of the appendix, we strengthened 1.5 this year, so you can see there that it talks about the Equality Act and the gender pay gap. We are now committed to obviously reducing that, and so from April 2018, we're going to undertake a gender pay review. And then that will be reported back to the fire authority at the appropriate time. Yeah. Just going down on 1.7, the pay multiples, just to put that into context, last year that pay multiple, it says the current lowest ratio, and that's comparing the highest salary with the lowest. Last year that was 1 to 10.7, and this year it's 1 to 8.4, so that's a direct result of the reduction in the chief fire officer's salary. Over the page, 2.4, we now specify the salaries of not only the chief fire officer but myself and Rick in the document, which we didn't do previously. We put percentages in there, so we've made it more transparent. Going down, the 2.6.3 and 2.6.4, they maintained at exactly the same levels as last year. And the anomaly here is because actually we used the new revised salary this time last year to compare those. So that's really just wanted to point that out. For some of you may say, well, they should be higher, but that's because we did use the revised salary last year when we put this together. Other than that, everything else on the pay policy statement is exactly the same. So I'm happy to take any questions that members may have.
Thank you, Matthew. Members? No comments? Right, we'll move to the recommendation then, if that's okay. And I'll ask to approve the pay policy as attached in the appendix. All those agreed? Agreed. Anybody against? Thank you. We'll move to item 7, which is the public sector auditor appointments. Sorry, Matthew, it's you again. Thank you.
So, again, members will be aware that the former Secretary of State for Local Government abolished the Audit Commission. The Audit Commission were the body that appointed external auditors to us, so the ones that do our year-end financial accounts and our value for money state reviews. Obviously, with them going, we need to continue to have an auditor. Now, what they've done is they've introduced a new body called the Public Service Auditor Appointments Body to act on our behalf and on behalf of all local bodies to appoint a new auditor from 2018. The proposal, and you'll see that I don't believe we want to run this process ourselves. It makes perfect sense for it to be handled centrally. PSA have got the resources and they've certainly got the expertise to run this on our behalf. So I'm recommending that we let them do it, and I opt in on behalf of the authority and say please do, and then tell us who our auditor will be, like they have done for the last 20 years. So if members are happy with that, any questions, I'm happy.
Councillor Shellens.
An observation, Chairman. Having looked at the choice that was given us, it was a complete non-choice. It was, would you rather have a bowl of strawberries or would you rather be shot? And I think it was just a complete sham that they were giving any element of choice. Is there a question, if I may, is there any sense in which we want to encourage those who are allocating the auditors to have a common audit body with other people around us?
Yes, Councillor Shen, yeah, it's a really good, really relevant question. Absolutely, yes. And I think in terms of when they appoint, you have a chance to actually say, no, it would make perfect sense for us to have synergy with our either fire neighbours in the East of England or our local government neighbours or the other blue light services. Absolutely. And we'll have that opportunity as and when they appoint. Thank you.
Anybody else? No? In that case, we'll go to recommendation on page 47. Ask to approve the PSAA, the procurement process, and appoint an external auditor. Everybody happy?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do we really want to let Matthew get away with 3 documents on the top?
Well, that's the end of it.
All right.
So we move to item 8, which is the Equality and Inclusion Compliance Report for 15-16, and I'm going to ask Rick to introduce this.
Thank you, Chairman, the members. In front of you you have the Equality and Inclusion reports. I'm asking you to approve. It's a legal requirement for the public sector body to do this under the Equality Act 2010. The report, as always, is broken down into two sections. One is about our community we serve, and those that access our services and the makeup of those communities. And the second is based upon our own workforce diversity section. This has been through Policy and Resources Committee. The Policy and Resources Committee asked that we added an executive summary to make it easier to understand and digest, and you can see that has been added. And we've also looked where we can. There was some confusion over the age categories, certainly when you go through and look at the population and indeed our own makeup of our staff based on age demography. The sections weren't even, which was showing a disproportionate effect on the graphs. Where we can, we have made those changes, but some of them are driven directly from census data, etc. Others are more difficult to change the reports, but the point has been noted, and we will do what we can for future reports. In terms of the actual compliance report itself, we can just turn to page 55, which is the executive summary, just to highlight a few areas. Members will be aware that in November 2015, the service was assessed as excellent against the Fire and Rescue Services Equality Framework, which was clearly a great achievement for the organisation and the people that were within it. However, there is more that we can do. We shouldn't rest back on our laurels and think we've got that. That was a point in time, and there's more that we need to drive on for. The report goes into some detail, and I'm sure that members have read it, and I'm happy to take any reports. But I think the one area whereby we do need to focus on specifically is around workforce diversity. So we've made some improvements, certainly in gender diversity. The operational workforce, following a range of positive action initiatives, has led to 29% of our new whole-time recruits being women, and 11% of our on-call recruits being women. But clearly, there's still more work we need to do. There's more we need to do to encourage female members of staff into management roles, and indeed around black and ethnic minority groups within our community, encouraging them to consider the fire services a career choice for them. So there's more that we can do, and the action plan from this will sit within the progress we make in our RMP, which I'll talk about later on this afternoon. But I'm happy to take any questions that members may have, Chairman.
Councillor Over.
Thank you, Chairman.